Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. And today I'm going to be doing a double movie review on 365 Days and 365 Days sequel, which is called 365 Days This Day. Yeah, about a couple years ago in 2020, Netflix has released a movie called 365 Dni, which is a Polish film, and it is 365 days. It is directed by Barbara Bielowas and Tomasz Mendes. Mendes, yes. And it is one of the worst movies to ever come out that year. I decided not to talk about that movie too much because I didn't really have any interest in talking about it. It's just softcore porn for 2 hours straight. But yeah, it's pretty awful. And in preparation for the sequel, I watched this movie and then I watched the sequel, and I want to shoot myself in the head right now. But essentially, the plot goes there is a Polish woman who lives a very boring life. Her boyfriend sucks, and she just wants a guy so badly. And for some reason, on a vacation to Italy, she runs into an Italian mafia boss. And the mafia boss is super handsome, looks like the Giga Chad, very muscular, and is very good at sex. And what happens is that the Italian mafia boss kidnapped the woman and locked her up in his castle or something, and forced her to fall in love with him. And he gave her 365 days. And if she doesn't fall in love with him within 1 year, then he will let her go. Yeah, seems like a bargain. Totally doesn't feel like sexual assault or abduction at all. Totally morally fine. Yes. Yeah, needless to say, this movie is pretty misogynistic because it literally treats women like objects. Oh, wow, you're so pretty, you're so sexy. Let me kidnap you and force you to fall in love with me. Yeah, it's terrible. And I feel like this movie tries to justify that by making the Polish woman say, "I'm not your object. I want to have my own decisions and have my own life as well." But actually this movie completely failed to do that because it still made the Italian mafia boss look like he's doing the right thing when he is clearly not. And what's even worse is that the movie depicted the Polish woman actually falling in love with her abductor, the Italian mafia boss. I'm gonna call him mafia boss from now on. And I'm gonna call the Polish woman the Polish woman. So instead of reacting very dramatically and being scared because she's literally abducted, in the movie, the Polish woman actually ends up falling in love with the guy and ends up feeling really fine and feeling really nice and comfortable. And that is just so unrealistic. And it just makes the movie even more morally broken. And morally broken movies can be pardoned if they are fun or stupid and silly and goofy and they're just made for some laughs and giggles. But this movie is the opposite of that. It is actually quite boring because there are a lot of scenes in this movie where nothing happens but the Polish woman buying fancy clothes and having fancy ass $1 million dinners and lunches with the mafia boss. Literally nothing happens but sex. And even the sex scenes are boring. Every time there's a sex scene, it is paired with shitty pop music, some of the worst, most ear-piercing pop music you can ever listen to. It's worse than Chainsmokers, so that's saying a lot. And it's not like this movie is that graphic or anything. I mean, even The Boys had more sex and nudity than this movie. So if you go into this movie only expecting sex, you're still going to be disappointed. And to end it off, 365 Days has a very confusing ending. Apparently, the Polish woman fell in love with the mafia boss so hard that they decided to get married, and then after they got married, uh, the Polish woman reveals that she's pregnant to her Polish friend, and then they were on a car somewhere, and then suddenly the mafia boss receives a call, and then he falls onto the ground and crying and fades to black. Like, what the fuck is even happening? I'm so confused. So I thought, okay, maybe the next movie will clear it up. Maybe the next movie, maybe the sequel will answer what happened and explain the ending to the last movie. Nope. The ending basically didn't happen in the sequel. So yeah, 365 Days is awful, and I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. Alright, now we have 365 Days This Day, and holy shit, it's even worse than the first movie. It's even worse. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the filmmakers behind this have more money and more control this time, but they have basically taken the softcore porn from the first movie, the wealth porn, all the fancy expensive stuff, and all the shitty pop music, and basically turn it up to 11 and make it even more obnoxious and even more annoying for some goddamn reason. Yeah, the pop music here is appalling, because at least in the first movie we have moments of silence, like we have scenes where there is no music in it. Yes, but in this movie, pretty much every single scene is backed with absolute garbage ass music. That just makes you want to puke. And they really up the wealth porn here. A lot more fancy cars, a lot of fancy castles, a lot of cool looking dresses, a lot of parties, private jets, private islands, private everything, limousines and fancy watches and everything. It's just wealth porn. And I could imagine a bunch of 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids watching this movie go, ooh, I really want to have a prince like this, or ooh, I really want to have a princess like this, and live in bumfuck nowhere in Italy, and live the rest of my wealthy life as if there's nothing to worry about in the world. It's absolutely appalling. And because this movie is so jam-packed with sex, there's actually more sex in the second movie than the first movie. And it's actually even worse, because every sex scene feels like a fleeting moment. It's so poorly edited. It has so much crappy music. It's so bland. It just fleets. It just flies off. You just don't remember it. And because of that, this movie ends up so hilariously boring. What is a 2-hour-long movie feels like 5 hours long. And why does it even have to be 2 hours long to begin with? You could have cut off 30 minutes from the movie and it would literally still be the same. It would literally still be the same. And there is no plot. At least in the first movie, there is this subplot line of, oh, you know, the Polish woman has an ex-boyfriend who's kind of an asshole. But in the second movie, there is no plot for the most of the movie. And then in the last 30 minutes or so, the movie suddenly crams this weird mafia crime godfather thing at the end, and it's goofy as hell. It's so unbelievable. It looks like a music video. Every single scene looks like a music video. It's so silly. It's so silly, and the acting is so bad. Apparently the antagonist of the second movie is the mafia boss's twin brother, who's angry and jealous. And the twin brother, for some reason, acts like the Joker, with the, oh, yeah, baby girl, I want to kill your husband. And it's so goofy. It's so laughable. Yeah, so obviously this is one of the worst movies I've ever watched, and contender for worst movie of the decade so far. Yeah, I think this movie and these movies are bad because it gives more legitimacy to the whole alpha male craze. You know how a couple years back, when a lot of men online suddenly latch onto this alpha male thing. I want to be the alpha male. I want to be, you know, kind of a sexy, sporty, controlling, manipulative, toxic guy, because that's what makes a guy alpha, and women love that. Yeah. And it's so stupid. And we are in the year 2022, and there are still movies like this giving to the craze. Second of all, this movie sucks because it gives romance a bad name. After watching this movie, I have zero interest in romance because it looks like the goofiest, silliest thing ever. So, yeah, it's awful. It's truly awful, and I'm giving the sequel movie a 0 out of 10. So, have you watched 365 Days and the sequel? From 1 to 10, I'm gonna just rate it, like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.